Let's take a look at an example where you would really use loops, and we're going to take a look at something that you would do more in a real life situation, and we're not going to include it in some of our, I guess, fake learning situations. But we're going to create a game, and in this game, there's going to be a series of doors, and the user is going to try to find the exit without picking a door that has snakes behind it. So we've got the scanner already put in here. It's called Snake Game. Now, for variables, what we're going to need, we're going to have some integers. So S1, S2, and S3 are going to be the snake locations. Int exit is going to be the exit location. Now, int doors, and this is going to be how many doors there are in the game. So we'll have this, have a variety of possibilities, and int pick will be the door selected by the user. Okay, so I've got my variables set up. So the very first thing that I want to do is I'll just explain to the user what the game is. So system.out.println. There are snakes hidden behind 3 doors. And then what I want to tell the user is select the exit door to escape. So that kind of sets that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the user pick how many doors there are going to be in this example before the game begins. So we'll do a system.out.print. And then we're going to say how many doors would you like? And then doors is going to get the value of input.next int. Now, here's where our real life scenario kind of comes in. So imagine this. We've got 3 snakes behind different doors and an exit. Now, if the user picks 2 doors, it's actually going to mess things up, and it's going to cause an infinite loop, and you'll see why in just a minute. So we need to make sure that the user picks 4 or more doors, and we want to avoid an infinite loop. So just saying make sure the number's over 4 isn't really enough. So this is where we're going to use a loop to help us out. So guaranteed, I'm going to want to ask them how many doors at least once. So this is a do while loop. So I want to keep asking. So when you're doing this is we're going to call this an input verification loop, where I need to make sure that whatever the user puts in is 4 or larger. So what we do here is we need to imagine this is an if statement. We have to imagine what would go in here that would be an inappropriate result for this input. So essentially, if the amount of doors, I better pluralize this. If the amount of doors is less than 4, then that's no good. It's going to loop. Now, also when you're doing this kind of thing, it's pretty critical to tell the user what they did wrong, because otherwise, if they just keep putting 2 over and over again, it's not going to help. So typically for an input verification loop, we also use an if statement that tells them why it's looping. So you usually use the same condition that you used for the while, like why you would loop. So if the amount of doors is less than 4, then what we're going to do is we are going to output minimum 4 doors enter again. So now if I run this, I'll just save that, run it. This is what we're going to get. How many doors would you like? I want 3 doors. Oh, minimum 4 doors, enter again. I want 6, and then it's okay with that. I just see that now I have to, I copied the wrong one. I need this as a println. Okay, always good to test your program frequently. Okay, so now we're guaranteed after this loop that the amount of doors is 4. So now what we're going to do is we are going to place our snakes in different doors. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this, and we're going to use some random numbers. So our snake location 1 is going to be an integer, and it's going to be math.random multiplied by the amount of doors that we have plus 1. So this will give you a random number from 1 up to the amount of doors that we have. And they're all set like this. Now, here's another problem that we're going to encounter is we want to make this difficulty level with the 3 doors that have snakes behind it, but potentially these could all pick the same number. So if we had 10 doors, for example, and they all picked 5, that's going to make our game not as fun. We want to make sure that there are more doors that have snakes than the actual amount of exits, which is 1. So what we have to do is we have to verify that these 3 things have different values so that they're all doors. So there's a way to write that like with an if statement, preventing, if we get S1 is 5, then we can get S2 to be a random number of every number before 5 and every number after 5. But that's really annoying to write. So we're just going to let it loop over and over again until it finds the correct solution. So we're going to do while. Now we want to think of the condition of like when it would be inappropriate and we need to loop. So we want to loop if S1 is equal to S2, or that S1 is equal to S3, or that S2 is equal to S3. And just for my own sense, I want to space that out. So what's going to happen is if it gets to this condition and any snake value is the same as any other snake value, then what it's going to do is it's going to loop. Okay, so now what we want to do is let's place our exit. Place exit. Now, same thing here. I am going to essentially do this same thing except for the exit. So I'm going to change this to exit. I want to make sure that it is within the same range and we don't need these. But also, I don't want it to be in the same place as a snake. So we're going to keep going while the exit equals S1, or the exit equals S2, or the exit equals S3. So now I've got my snakes and door in different locations. So just as a testing line, println, let's print S1 plus, and I'll put a space, plus S2 plus a space, plus S3. I realize I put S1 there. I'm going to fix it in a second. And plus exit. There we go. So now let's see what the program does. I'm going to run it. And I'm going to say I want 10 doors. So what we've got is snake 1, 2, and 3 are going to be in doors behind doors 10, 8, and 3. And the exit is going to be behind door 9. So I'm going to, this is a testing line, so I'm going to turn it into a comment. We don't need it. Okay, So now that we've got the snakes and the doors, let's play the game. Okay. So now, in order to play the game, I'm going to keep going. So we obviously want them to pick at least one door. So we're going to keep going while the user's pick does not equal the exit. And so this is something that I like to do is when I've got one value compared to, multiple others, I can just sort of copy and paste it like that. S1 and S2 and S3. So essentially, like, the user can keep picking as long as they haven't picked something that will stop this whole process. So while the pick does not equal the exit, S1, S2, or S3, what we're going to do is we will have system.out.print enter a door you wish to check. And then pick is going to get the value of input.nextInt. There we go. So we're going to make this game kind of terrible just to begin with. So we're going to pick, and if after the loop is done, if the pick is equal to S1 or the pick is equal to S2 or the pick is equal to S3, I realize now it would have been easy to copy and paste this and then just change exit for pick. So if they picked any of the snakes, we'll go system.out.println snakes, and then we'll remind them that this is a bad thing, you lose. Okay, otherwise, we are going to do system.out.println, and then this one is going to be you found the exit and escape. And then we'll say you win. Just in case they really wanted to meet escape, we'll remind them that that is a win condition. So I'm going to save this, and then we'll run the program. Make sure that it's working. How many doors would you like? I'm going to go 10. Let's check door 5. Oh no, snakes. Let's try that again. I'm going to go 10 again, pick door 5. Snakes again. Seriously, I have to be able to do this without getting snakes once. Yeah. 10 doors. 5. Oh, here we go. 6. Oh, snakes. Okay. So now what we want to do to improve the game, rather than just sort of make it like random guessing and you get the number or you don't, we're going to have to, make it better. So the first thing that I want to do here is I want to avoid the potential situation that they picked a door that doesn't exist. So we're going to do another input verification loop here. So we're going to do, and then we'll do this as a while. Now we need a range here. So we want to make sure that if the pick is less than 1, which is always the first door, or the pick is larger than doors, so they picked something that's larger than doors, we want to loop this thing. Now, the same thing as before, we want to have an if statement here that matches this. So if this is the case, then what we'll do is we will system.out.println, we'll tell them the door doesn't exist. So door, and then we'll remind them what they picked. Door pick does not exist. pick again. There we go. Putting this error message is pretty crucial when you're doing this. Now, what we want to do is we are going to tell them if they are close to a snake. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we're not ending the loop. So if essentially we want to put this here. So if we're not ending the game here, we're going to check to see if they're close to a snake. So we want to go plus or minus 1. So if a snake is in door 4 and they picked 3 or 5, we want to tell them that a snake is nearby. Now, there are 3 ways to write this, and I'll show you all of them. So the first scenario here is if we're going to write them as ranges. So if the pick of the user is larger than or equal to S1 minus 1, and the pick of the user is smaller than or equal to S1 plus 1, so this gives us a range of 1. So the pick can be anywhere from 1 less to 1 greater than the location of S. Or, and this is where I'm going to do some copying and pasting. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we do that, this is a little bit of a complicated if statement. So we're kind of checking, is it close to the first snake or the second or the third? So this is kind of one comparison. So I'm going to use parentheses to say that that is one comparison. Now we're going to change this to S2, S2. Now this is a bit of a long line of code. S3, S3. So this is one if statement to tell us that we're close to a snake. Now this feels a little bit long, and there are different ways to write this. So I'm going to turn this into a comment, and let's take a look at the second way that we could write this. We can write it this way as well. Now we already know that the pick is not S1, so doing this range might be unnecessary, especially when we can do this. So we're going to check to see if the pick is S1 minus 1, or the pick is S1 plus 1. Because we don't have to check the one in the middle because we already know that it can't be that because it made it through this check. So when you're nesting if statements, you can always use the exterior one to really make the middle ones more concise. So I am going to do what I did before. This one will be my S3, and then this one will be my S2. So really what we're doing is we're checking to see if their pick was exactly one of these 6 values. However, we can actually cut this down to 3 terms. So we'll leave that one as a comment. These are great examples to come back to if you ever have to do something similar to this in the future. So now this last one is going to be one where we're going to cut it down to 3 terms. So what we want to do essentially is to check to see if the difference between their pick and the snake location is 1. So this is how we can write it. So if math.absolute value of pick minus S1 is 1, then we know that pick is 1 spot away, because what math.absolute value does, it takes whatever you have in here and turns it positive. So this is awesome for using when you have the difference between 2 values. You're trying to find the difference, but it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. So we'll use an OR, and I'll copy and paste this for the other values. S3, and S2. There we go. So this one tells us if the difference between the pick and any of those S values is exactly 1. So it's 1 away. So if we are 1 away, what we want to do is we're going to print system.out.println, you hear a hissing sound, ... So this tells us we're close to a snake. Otherwise, let's just say system.out.println, nothing there. Okay, so I'm going to save this and we'll run it. So let's check this out. I'm going to do this with 10 doors again. Let's check 5. Okay, so now the game's a little bit more interesting. It says we hear a hissing sound, so I know that 4 or 6 has a snake behind it. So I'm going to pick 7. And now this doesn't tell us, potentially 8 could be a snake, but we know that 6 probably is based on this. So I'm going to pick 9, and we find the escape, the exit and escape. So basically the idea of this program is to take a look at a real example of how we would use these input verification loops and if statements, not only to prevent the user from, or the computer in this situation, from picking something that we don't want, but we're also guiding them with the information that we give them in the if statements, whether it is they're close to something they're supposed to pick, or they've picked exactly something that they're not supposed to. So use this in any sort of like real application that you're doing that uses user input and while loops.